Yo, 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 what is going on, RoK Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today we are going to be touching on one of probably the hottest topics that has been floating around the RoK community lately, which is jumping and the changes that are going to be coming in the next update, I believe landing on May 16th, so in a couple days from now, where we will be seeing players, who knows how they're going to be reacting from all sides, but there are some initial reactions going around already and have been since this was announced a couple days ago on some of the changes that are going to be hitting them. And so today I'm going to show you some of the reactions, just a few, and we're going to touch on the update and the portion specifically that is going to be changing how jumpers are going to be affected going forward. I'm going to give you my pros and cons on what I feel it affects, and then in addition, I will lay out what I think is a very good assessment on how, at the end of the day, it doesn't really affect what a jumper's or a jumper project's capabilities are when you're going into your final kingdom, or really even that jumping honestly is just never really going to stop, right? And I'm going to really explain why and kind of do what I would, a high level overview, if you will, on this. So before we get started, as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you subscribe, like, ring that notification bell. If you want to be a part of our conversation, hit up the Discord. You can find that in the description / pinned comment below. So let's start off with an oldie but a goodie. And that is going to be taking a look at Discord. So let's look here. And I'm only going to show a couple posts, but there's a few here from a few people. A friend, Abuse Panda, that I've known for a little while, recently had met and got to know more during my time playing IK. And there's a couple interactions here talking from a few people here on the general channel for the official RoK Discord. And it starts off yesterday saying, how did Lilith nerf jumpers? AP says Jumpers is dead. It wasn't a nerf. Right, long story. Nah, Jumpers ain't dead. Just isn't worth it as much as it used to be. Less rewards, that's all. I actually think this is a pretty accurate description. Says you need to read the update notes. Right, I'm glad on Discord Mars. I go watch them cry when the update goes live and pour oil and fire. I mean, to be fair, it will happen, right? It just depends on how much it's going to happen. And then Shadow says, right, I don't blame anyone for loving jumping. It was really good, cute. I don't blame anyone if they like it or dislike it. It's fun to see people throw tantrums. Cringe isn't cutting it anymore. What Shopping says is burn jumpers. And then we go, right, jumpers is cringe. Hating a group of people doing what they want is cringe. Burn all jumpers. And then this is, I thought, a really good summary here from AP where she says it wasn't the City King being an issue that they decided to axe jumpers. They were bullying newbies, so the revenue was getting hit because jumpers don't spend, and they just restart again to bully again, resulting in Kingdom dying over and over again with potential clients not spending. At least that's from my perspective, and reasons are straight out of my feelings. I will say this, right? When I read this from AP, to a degree, this makes sense. However, I think it's a little more deep than that, where you can make the argument that any player at any time joining a new kingdom can affect a new player's experience. It's not limited to just jumping. However, jumpers can, yes, affect what may or may not happen, just as much as a rogue player or, spenders that just meet up in a kingdom and they decide, hey, we're just all going to join the top alliance. I mean, a top alliance, a number one alliance can just say, hey, we want everything, right? And they can just take over whatever they want. Your kingdom can, once they get to Zone 2 and Zone 3, just only have 2 or 3 alliances there, right? Then you still have a bunch of player drop-off. So I don't believe for 1 second that jumpers are drastically affecting the way that the player retention is calculated for being in a new kingdom. Do I think there's a part of it? 100% I do. I think it would be irresponsible of us to say otherwise. However, I do not believe it is the biggest factor. I think it's really just more the game's designed by default, in which how kingdoms develop from day one that really factors into it. If anything, I could make the argument that if you have ever joined a project of mine, you know that our whole entire focus is to increase player activity and have the highest level of player retention in a kingdom when our groups land in them. If you look at an example from the last part that I did, which was 2777, and you compared it with the other kingdoms that were in the continent at the time, we, by far and above, had more alliances over 100 mil power than the others did at those set intervals. We had more active alliances per provinces and per Zone 1 overall that were able to grow and develop. Therefore, more players were able to stay active and engaged in playing the game, which means, again, in turn, more overall revenue that the kingdom is generating because we're not ostracizing players. We're not saying, hey, we're just going to have one alliance per province or two alliances per Zone 1 province, or we're just going to take all these structures or seeing others happen. That's usually what you end up seeing developing in the highest rate in new kingdoms that come out. So even though I 100% understand where AP is coming from here, and I can also see how others may view it that way as well for their experiences, again, a lot of it really just comes down to, you know, a group's direction, a rogue player's direction, a spender's direction. Does a top alliance in a brand new kingdom that doesn't have jumpers just decide they want to take over everything? I mean, there are so many things that can happen that can affect what a company may view as, their revenue or their net they're making per month, how it's affecting based on kingdom dynamics and just the environment of playing a kingdom builder being RoK. There's a lot of factors. Now, I do believe there are some ways to actually help that. That's probably a conversation for another time. But let me now dive into the update, and really let's talk about what's written there, and then we'll do a nice little kind of deep coverage. Okay, so we're going to start reading from here, which is line 2. Well, I should say 4-2 if I want to be super lawyery. So we got other optimizations. Point 2 here is change conditions for obtaining or scrapping beginners' immigration items. Once the update goes live, newly created characters will not be able to obtain beginners' immigration items if not in the preparation season. Okay, so before we read further, let's define what do they mean by that, right? So that means that you will not be able to obtain beginners' immigration items if not in the preparation season. What this means is that you have to start your account. And for those of you who are familiar with something like New Journey, right, that you can still use New Journey. There's nothing in there that says you can, right? It's basically just where you're creating your account therefrom. So this is prep season. So basically you have to go here and you have to look at one, right? And an example, if I do a little drop down here, 2705 is the oldest, right? So you're at 77 days, 18 hours. With the youngest being at the time of the video, 2803, right? Which is 1 day, 12 hours old. So you essentially have to create an account in the prep season, right? Not in any of these, but you got to go to the prep season and you have to basically create your account in one of these kingdoms. Now, the next line item is also very important, which states that unused beginners' immigration items will be scrapped once your city hall reaches level 8 or, and this is the big or, your kingdom reaches the Eve of the Crusade event for Season 1. This does not apply to items obtained before the update goes live. Okay, so what that means is that if you are on average spending 8 to 9 days minimum, or just around, in a kingdom before you jump, that means that one, you have to be able to create your account before EOTC hits, which means you're probably not going to create your account in this kingdom, right? The kingdom that is the oldest within prep season, because you want to make sure you're giving yourself enough time before EOTC hits, because the moment it does, you lose the ability on that item to then actually go to a new kingdom. So that's number one. Number two is that when you are in a new kingdom, you are going to have to, right, in prep season, you're going to have to clear fog. And that's really, so if you think back on when you were able to do a double jump, or you'd create in a KVK kingdom, you jump to a newer kingdom, and that's where, like, when you did your first jump to the second kingdom, you'd have to clear fog. Then you did your second jump to the third kingdom and final, you'd have to clear fog again. In this case, what they're doing is eliminating the ability to already have one kingdom which is already cleared in fog. And now you basically have to do the second and third jump in that double jump order where you're clearing fog twice, right? So those are really the two biggest changes outside of three, I guess, if you want, right? You're not really going to be able to get any KVK rewards. However, a substitute to that, right? And let's kind of talk about what some of the workarounds are, right? So those are kind of some of the big nerfing limiting changes. But now, how do you approach operating, doing a project, and taking advantage of what rewards can you get? So this is a few parts. Let me first start off with, right, what rewards can you actually get now? So what I view as being more beneficial at this time, given the change that's going to be coming, is you would now want to look to go into a kingdom to time out specific events. Maybe you time out Lohar's Trial. Maybe you time out Strategic Reserve. Maybe you time out a seasonal event on top of one of these other events, right? So maybe you wait for seasonal events to hit, and maybe that's going to be the new big spike. So it'll be whenever a seasonal event's hitting. However, and keep this in mind because this is a big asterisk, there is a chance, if they don't already do it, where you may not be able to utilize or participate in seasonal events, where they'll just say, and maybe, and again, I don't recall it being this way, because even when we did our project, a little while ago, we were still able to get some of the seasonal event rewards. However, that could be something they look at if they notice a big spike in event creation or jumping around within the seasonal event windows. However, let's just go under the guise or the example of, let's say you are able to utilize seasonal events. Then I actually think that's when we'll see the biggest spike in jumping or creations that'll start happening, so people can maximize seasonal event rewards and then attempt to double up on any other types of rewards they can. Unless the seasonal event rewards, just for whatever reason, aren't as good as doubling up on Lohars or having a full kind of strategic reserve event day, right? These are just some examples on the types of events you may look at with how you prep. And basically the way you do that is just by creating an account in those kingdoms, getting it to a minimum level, which I think you can look at the calendar right after you finish the tutorial. So you do that, you look at the events that are going a week out. I believe they refresh on Saturday, if that's right. Let me double check. Don't hold me to that. So, sorry, Wednesday. Oh, excuse me. Never mind. I guess it's different now here. So yeah. So it looks like Wednesday is when it resets, and so I guess that's Tuesday going into reset. Wednesday is when you'll find out the new week schedule. With that, you basically just look at what events are coming up and you try and time it out appropriately. So you would really just, whenever you're ready, right? You're not really going to have lead time. So you'll kind of have to go off of, you get your group to a certain point where they are ready to go, and you have a minimum number of people to start. And then you're just letting people know, look, just be on standby. We will let you know when we're going to start, what kingdom we're going to go to. And then you try and, time it out, right? Like, let's say maybe a great event is going to happen on Friday and the new week just started. So you give people the 2-day heads up notice. You're like, hey, we're going to start Friday. So sometimes you may be able to. It just depends on what's happening on the event. Maybe the best event is on Wednesday and you're like, okay, hey, we're going to go now. So obviously that's something each group is going to have to figure out. But of course, giving as much lead time is always going to be great. Okay, then let's talk about how does this actually affect jumpers as a whole, right? Now, we did mention, you're going to get some less rewards. You're going to have to do a little bit more work, especially on the first kingdom, because you're going to have to grind out that fog. So that's probably going to be, a couple days. Some people might take 7 to 8 days to finish it, but it is doable. Now, the reason why I don't think this is going to affect jumping overall is because of a few things. One, if you look at what you do with jumping just at minimum, you are, in short, gathering a group of people so you can organize yourself in a final kingdom. What that means is that even if you, let's just say as an example, that you had absolutely no rewards that you could get. There was just nothing you could get. Let's just say eventually it gets to a point where they just totally nerf jumping. They take away the beginner's teleport. It still wouldn't affect jumping. And I'll tell you why, because I am someone who's done this before. So there was another kingdom builder I played, a little less popular than RoK, and we jumped in a kingdom day one. No prep, as far as no pre-kingdom prep or other server prep to go and get rewards. Like, we organized kind of a smallish group, and we went into the kingdom day one. That kingdom, eventually became the number one strongest kingdom in, yeah, I think it was, right, 6-8, I gotta remember my routes here, yeah, 6-8, okay. Yeah, so it eventually became the number one strongest kingdom in the game and lasted for a couple months. There, once they got to number one. I think it was probably more than a couple months. But the reason why is because you don't need to really get rewards, right? All that is icing on the cake. It's extra. All you need to do is have an organized structure, organize your players, your alliances, and even if you all went in day one, you would still be able to do the same things. The only difference is that some of the players just may not be as strong immediately. That's the only big difference. So for me, when I kind of hear the conversations come up about, the death of jumpers or, oh, we're getting nerfed again, we need to stop it, right? My expectations, I think, are more realistic based on, for someone who's played RoK, since very early on at Global, and you saw eventually to the point of where you were able just to get so many rewards as jumpers. I mean, again, I'm sure some of us played during the time where you could go in, cycle rewards through alliances, go into your your KVK1, your KVK2s, and just basically get all the best rewards that you could get, along with a lot others. And now it's not really that. So for me, I've never believed that getting rewards is the end all be all, right? It's going to make or break a group. No, what is going to make or break your jump as a project or when you join as a player is going to be on how well your group is organized and how well they're structured. And that, at the end of the day, is always going to be the number one biggest thing that factors into how successful or what highest chances or percentages your group is going to have going into a kingdom to be successful. So, again, for me, I hope this helps with breaking down some of the pros and cons and really how, at the end of the day, this doesn't affect what or how a jump project is going to be able, or even just how an individual, right, will be able to foresee joining a project or a group and then going into your final kingdom. It's just a little bit more work, a few less rewards, but can still be the same end result and goal that you can accomplish. With that being said, I hope, again, that this helped. And I wasn't expecting to do this for 17 minutes, but I felt that it at least deserved a proper breakdown and explanation for what goes into it. That is it for me. I would really love to hear what you all think in the comments down below. Let me know, do you agree? Do you disagree with what I'm saying? Is what I'm saying making sense on kind of how to view the big picture? Do you feel that maybe, no, they just still need to revert back? How are they going to give us all these rewards and then take all these away? Let me know anything and everything down there in those comments. That is it for me. Until next time, I'll catch you later.